Hello and welcome to my channel once again for another update on VRChat. It's been a few days since I've uploaded a video about VRChat news and updates, and I thought it would be a good idea to go ahead and do this before there are too many updates that it feels impossible to catch up with everything. We'll be looking at the developer updates from August 2nd and August 3rd. With that, I also highly recommend looking at my first developer update video if you are interested or you're worried about missing out on something, but don't worry. I'll link that in the description and in the pinned comment down there. Make sure to leave a like if you found this video helpful and consider subscribing if you want to see more VRC updates and other kinds of content in the future. Anyways, we have quite a lot to go through, so I think we should get started with that. First, we'll look at the developer update from August 2nd. Live beta. There's currently an open beta that works with live so people can use it alongside everyone else. That has a ton of features in it. Check out the post from last week to see what's in it. Over the weekend, we continued to gather feedback, and more importantly, we also gathered bugs and issues with the beta. There's a few, which is to be expected with the speed that we integrated both brand new features and features we had on hold. We're working to fix those bugs, adding in some more improvements, and also continuing to work on other tasks and projects. A new live beta build is expected sometime this week, or potentially fixing bugs and dropping it into live, and then dropping new work into a new live beta. We're playing it by ear. Movable main menu. A bug was found in the live beta where the movement handle appeared unexpectedly. This got fixed. We found another bug where moving the main menu would also invisibly rotate and move the loading scene away from you. This was fixed as well. We changed the way that the feature gets turned on the first time to help explain how it works for users. The first time a new user encounters the feature, the grab box will be on and at 100% opacity. Hovering it will cause text to appear beneath the box reading grab to reposition the menu. After the user interacts with the grab to rotate successfully for the first time, the grab button will fade out of view. Hovering over it with the active pointer will fade the grab button back in at 50% opacity. Horizon adjust. Not much to say here. We put it out in the live beta and people liked it. There was some design concerns with people going upside down and being annoying with it, but it seemed like most of it calmed down after the novelty wore off. There weren't any major bugs with the implementation, but there was some discussion about the UI for enabling the feature, because the warning is confusingly also a button. Personal mirror. Out of the things we put on the open beta, this one got the most feedback. There's a bunch of changes that we put into the internal version today. All mirror settings save across play sessions now. I guess that's good. Portable mirrors no longer reflects into other mirrors. Tracking mode has been converted into a toggle. Tracking mode now sits at the top level of the menu. Setting submenu no longer kicks you out. Fixed tracking ball reflection layers, renamed transparency to opacity. Additionally, a face mirror prototype was added, which is a mirror that displays your own face, attached at your HUD layer. This makes it really easy to monitor how hand gestures and action menu settings adjust your face in real time. Just as like a perspective as someone who wants to make content, I've been playing around with like the stream camera pointing at me, but trying to like keep it out of view, so like it's not like just sitting there. I really think that something like this could be good for that. Also just for people who want to look at themselves or like keep track of their emotes or whatever. But as a content creator or an aspiring content creator, this could be really useful, and I think it's really good. I hope they actually add that, because I know it's just a prototype. I don't know. Also, I do want to mention that it's like 1,000,000,000 degrees in here, so I have my air conditioner on. Hopefully it's not gonna like pick up at all, but if it does, hopefully it's not too bad, because it's about 1,000,000,000 degrees in here. I waited till like midnight so it would be cooler, but it's super hot in here still, so I hope that's fine, because it's very hot. Hide avatars by distance / max number of avatars by distance. Last time I mentioned this one, the feature hid avatars by distance from you. So you can set only show avatars within 5 meters of me. Everyone outside of the radius turns into a placeholder avatar. If you don't remember, that was like the thing where it showed the diamond. They showed like an example of what the diamond could look like that replaces players' avatars when they're too far away. I'll make sure to put that here to show you, just in case you don't remember. Since then, we've added the ability to limit the number of rendered avatars by distance. This means you can set only show the closest 5 avatars. Everyone else past that will be turned into the placeholder avatar, which, if it's the same, it was the diamond. There's also been the addition of 2 new options. Always show friend avatars and always override with show avatar. The first setting, always show friends avatars, when enabled, will mean that all your friends will never be affected by the distance or max number of avatars slider. That's actually really good, because then your friends could be over there with the diamonds, and then you could still see them perfectly fine. I think that's a really good choice. It's like kind of like when you have all avatars disabled except for your friends, like on the safety settings. I feel like it's going to be like that. The second setting, allow override with show avatar when enabled, will mean that anyone you've clicked show avatar on will be immune to the effects of the distance or count height. So it basically works like the system works now, except for it's distance based. I'm pretty sure that's how it's going to work. That's what it sounds like to me, at least. Avatars don't load or unload when they're shown or hidden by the system. The swap over is instant. This task is getting some more work. In particular, we're examining the possibility of showing the render range with an effect of some kind while you're moving the slider. We also need to profile and benchmark to ensure that we're not costing more for performance by implementing the system, and are doing a bit of UI polish. I mean, it seems really promising so far to me. I think that seems like a pretty cool system. I know a lot of people have experienced or have explained that they've experienced a lot of performance issues since the addition of EAC and like not having optimization mods, maybe a combination of both. Something like this does seem like it would help with that because everything would run smoother if you can like optimize your game by not loading everything. Pretty good, I think. Text to text, text to speech, and speech to text. There was a sync between the engineers, designers, and producers on this task. Internally, we've actually been talking about a few separate systems, so we had to separate them out into their own tasks to avoid confusion. Text to text. This is the speech bubble we talked about last time. There's no cost associated with this, as we just build it in the application. The effort on this is mostly done for the first iteration, and a prototype will be available soon. Text to speech. This is generating speech based on input text. This could be relatively cheap if we use something like Amazon Poly or Microsoft Azure voice synthesis. There's not been effort yet on this beyond exploration, which sounds disappointing, I'm going to be honest. I know text to text, text to speech, and speech to text, and speech to text to speech. Yeah, I think that covers all of them. I was really excited for that, and I know like a lot of people who are hearing impaired or hard of hearing would like and or need these features, and so knowing that there's no effort on it yet, a little disappointing, but let's just keep going. Maybe they'll surprise us. It was also one of the features I was most excited about. Anyways, speech to text. This is converting spoken text to words. This could be relatively expensive if done in the cloud. Local solutions aren't consistent and vary depending on OS. For the moment, efforts will go toward an MVP, minimum viable product, TTT, text to text implementation, which eventually will have TTS added on top. Once TTS is implemented and we gather feedback, we'll look into STT. Since TTT will exist, STT may not be as useful, especially since you could input into a text-to-text entry field with OS-level voice input if required. So this means, like, to me, that it could take a long time for us to get text-to-speech or speech-to-text, or even speech-to-text-to-speech. They didn't even mention that on here. Honestly, this really was one of the things I was looking forward to a lot, and it's a little disappointing that it sounds like it's going to take a while longer to work on that at least. Hopefully they still get it done. It just sucks that it's going to take longer. Noise gating and background noise removal. This is 2 tasks in one. Basically, it lets you adjust your mic sensitivity and lets you remove background noise as an option. We're implementing a cross-platform version of RN noise, so this will work on everything from the start. This task is in review status. Wait, so it sounds like I'm assuming review status is probably almost done, right? They're like, okay, we did everything. We just need it to get reviewed before it goes live. That's what I would think. It sounds like it's the last stage of like the of a task, I guess. I'm again also guessing. I don't know how they work internally. Just guessing. It does sound like a good feature though. We also got an update on portal placement. This feature will allow you to place a portal with your controller instead of guessing at a position with where you're standing. This task is in development, has some art assets, and has a prototype. As you can see on screen, we have what it would look like to be like trying to aim up to where to place a portal. That's what it looks like to me. And then we have 2 art images. One, I'm guessing, would show like if you can't place it there, that's what it would show up. And then this one would be if you can place a portal here, that's what it would look like. We also have auto disable cloning, which is new. There was a bit of confusion with this feature in the live beta, and we got some feedback. Instead of being a higher level override, we'd like the option to simply disable cloning in the normal VRChat main menu. Settings page whenever an option is enabled and a world change occurs. Being able to be cloned in any moment will be determined by the pre-existing setting. With auto disable cloning on, entering a new instance with avatar cloning keeps it off. Entering a new instance with cloning on turns it off. This was iterated today, went through review, and through QA. It'll make it into the next release or live beta build, whichever comes first. So that just seems like no matter what, every time you join an instance, it'll like turn off your cloning, which could be good. Usually it's not too much to keep track of, but I do accidentally leave my cloning on sometimes. Now we have a new addition that I've heard a lot of people actually talk about in the comments of my last video, which I thought was really interesting that they added this. It's AMD FSR. Warning, technical stuff follows. There was some feedback last time we posted about AMD FSR, primarily why not 2.0? And what about DLSS, DLA, or XESS? We don't expect that we will get good results with FSR 2.0, DLSS, or Intel's XESS because they rely on generating accurate motion vectors. They're all temporal obscuring algorithms that combine pixels from multiple frames to produce a higher resolution image, but they'll require motion vectors in order to account for pixel motion between frames. We have access to motion vectors in burp. I'm not really sure what burp stands for, but due to custom shaders, there's no guarantee they're accurate enough to use for any of the aforementioned solutions. And without correct motion vectors, we would use various visual artifacts similar to SteamVR's motion smoothing, which are bad enough that many turn it off due to said artifacting. This is especially a problem for VRChat, because we allow custom shaders. We have previously never required motion vectors. As such, many shaders won't support them, leading to incorrect behavior. Even beyond that, these temporal processes can come with technical limitations, with modern games often choosing to avoid certain effects because they interact poorly with temporal and anti-aliasing techniques. This would still be a problem even in a SRP such as URP, which only had motion vector support added in the 2021 LTS version of Unity, because users can trivially make shaders that need special handling for motion vectors, not realize it, and end up causing artifacts. On top of that, motion vectors don't handle transparency very well, so DLSS would need to be integrated into the middle of the pipeline so that it can be applied to the opaque meshes, which may not be possible with burp. There's a lot of stuff I don't understand in here, but I do want to provide the information so the people that this does affect or that do understand this can get the information. I didn't want to skip it or anything like that. We hope this provided some future insight. We're still continuing work to implement AMD FSR 1.0 as it works without motion vectors. See our previous dev update for further information. Assigning CPU affinity on Ryzen processors. We're currently investigating the performance benefits of adding a launch flag to VRChat that would set CCX affinity for AMD Ryzen processors. This could potentially lead to a performance uplift. It's possible that it might lead to instability though, so we want to make sure that it's not the case before pushing it live. A note about FPS. Following the launch of EAC, some users have been reporting noticeable FPS drops in VRChat. While we've been trying our best to hunt down these issues, we haven't been able to replicate them on our end. This is something we've kept a really close eye on. We know how important performance is to our community. Yet after collecting about a week of data, we haven't seen the average frame rates of our users dropping. In fact, averaging frame rate across all platforms is relatively stable. We looked very closely at our data to determine this, as the reports from users about lower performance are plentiful, but we don't see any downward trend. Of course, this doesn't mean that some users aren't experiencing these issues. It's totally possible. We encourage users to first go through these trouble setting steps and see if their issue improves. If it doesn't, you should contact our support team for further troubleshooting. It's entirely possible that there could be a performance issue, but it might be localized to a certain piece of hardware, driver, or something else that we can't puzzle out without a bit more data. To summarize, we're not seeing anything to suggest EAC is downgrading performance significantly. If you are having issues, please make a bug report. I think this is really interesting. I've heard a lot of people talk about performance drops, and I can imagine some of it's from EAC, because EAC is more software for your computer to run. If you have older hardware or less powerful hardware in general, then that impact will be a little bit more. Also, I can imagine there's also quite a few people who had optimization mods that now don't have them that help their game run much smoother than it can now. That also could contribute to more reports about poor performance. I also am curious about how they gather their data, because they seemed really sure at first, but then at the end they're like, we're not sure. I'm really interested about how they gather their data, even though I probably won't ever know. And I feel like it's also quite hard to judge something like that in VRChat, because there are so many worlds that impact different systems differently. They have more factors that could affect how your FPS may affect, but not only FPS, but frame times. I think these are all very important things about performance that they didn't really talk about very much. But again, I don't know how they gathered their data. I don't know if they just asked a bunch of people. I don't know if they constantly collect frame rate data in their game. I don't know. In the comments, let me know if you have any performance issues in the game since the EAC update, or if you don't have any performance issues and everything seems the same or is somehow better. Let us know in the comments about that as well. We have 2 more things on the August 2nd update. We'll get through those and then we'll move on to the 3rd of August update. Graduation Day. Alongside this work, it turns out we had a bug in the community lab system that was causing worlds not to graduate properly. We fixed the bug and applied the fix retroactively. So you might notice a bunch, like 500 worlds in the new row that got graduated out of community labs. Go explore. That's a lot of worlds. A lot of people have probably been like, why aren't these public yet? I'm glad they fixed it, but that does seem a little bit major in a game that's about everything being user made. Conclusion. As always, these aren't the only things we've got queued up. This is just what we moved today, and we possibly missed some stuff. There's a lot going on. We'll get back to you tomorrow with more. And now we'll move on to the August 3rd developer update. All right, at the top of this page, they said some more stuff about the live beta, but I went ahead and skipped that. They're always going to be constantly upgrading the beta and how it works and what they're adding to it versus what they're adding to the real game right away or making live, I guess is what the term that they use is. So we're going to go ahead and skip that. That'll be at the top of every single one. If I do another update video, I'll make sure to include that because the updates will probably be more significant because it's been further in time, but I'm going to go ahead and skip this one for now. Increase favorites. A surprisingly large amount of work had to go into this to ensure our UI handled the additional favorites without issue. And also to make sure that we don't bull over our API with spurious requests. The old UI is kind of a mess to navigate through, so that held things back a bit. There also had to be coordination with the VRChat API to ensure that the limits were set and enforced properly on the server side. This task is currently in QA. We have an update on visual settings. If you recall, visual settings is the feature that allows you to adjust visual appearance of either the VRChat UI and the world or just the world that you're in. We've finished the UI design of this feature. It just needs to be connected to the rest of the system, which was finished last week. Once that's done, we'll probably need a little bit more tweaking to ensure that everything works as expected. Because of how much this feature visibly changes, it's likely to take a bit more QA than some of the other stuff we've discussed lately. This task is currently in development. Copy and paste buttons. This task is nearly complete. Using the new paste button on the keyboard, you can paste whatever is in your clipboard into the text field you have selected. Copy will copy whatever you have selected. As an added bonus, when you select a text field in the world, the VRChat keyboard will appear. Along with the brand new paste and copy buttons, paste is on the right, copy is on the left. This task is nearly complete and is going through the final steps before merge. This is kind of interesting to me. I wonder now that the VRChat keyboard will pop up no matter what over a text field, if someone will somehow implement a YouTube search function instead of just like a YouTube player. If someone will make a thing that you can just search YouTube and then select from the options, that could be really interesting. I feel like that's something someone would make. Not me, of course. I don't have the experience for that, but I feel like someone would, or at least attempt to. Personal mirror. We've changed the way you place and move the mirror around the world. Instead of being able to grab the mirror at any time and having a lock option in the action menu, we've removed the lock option and replaced it with move. When you select the option, the mirror will be stuck to your hand and you'll be able to move it around. Additionally, when you push the right joystick forward, it'll push the mirror away from you. Pushing the joystick back will bring the mirror closer. Pull the trigger to lock the mirror in place. This actually feels pretty good, the way it sounds, because it feels a lot like how you would move normal objects in the VRChat world. You pick them up, they stick to your hand, you put them down. Resizing has changed similarly. When you resize the mirror, it works similarly. Instead of a plus and minus button, the action menu disappears, and you can push up and down on the joystick to make this mirror bigger or smaller. Pull the trigger to lock the mirror. We've also added a face mirror, which shows your avatar's face in the HUD. Oh, we talked about this earlier in the video. We're probably just going to go ahead and skip this part. I think it'll be really great to have that face mirror still. Viewpoint near clip. We had a challenge with this feature. There was a good call out by some of our engineers in worlds with larger than default far clip. 1,000 meters is default. Precision would be highly impacted by changing near clip to small values, which are the values that users often want to swap in order to make very small avatars work properly. For example, Test Pilots, amazing map by the way, shout out to the creator of that one. Test Pilots has a 10-kilometer far clip distance. This makes sense if you're moving along at Mach 4, but when you change your near clip to 0.1 centimeters, then your depth precision drops like a rock. You get some pretty strange artifacts as a result, like fog breaking, sprites drawing past far clip, extreme Z fighting, and more. So we've replaced the 3 centimeter and 1 centimeter options and instead added these modes. So there's 3 modes. The first one is off, turns off this override completely and uses the world's near clip value as set by the reference camera. This is the default. Dynamic uses the 0.001 meter as the near clip value, unless far clip is higher than 1000 meters. If far clip exceeds 1000 meters, dynamic uses the lowest possible near clip value, while staying within a factor of 1 million of the near and far clip. Clamp to a max world reference camera setting. This avoids most but not all possible problems with having near clip that low. And forced uses 0.001 meters no matter what. However, this setting will reset between world changes. You'll be warned when you enabled it because using it may break the world that you're in. This task is currently in review. So the more I read about this feature, I had no clue what it's about, to be honest. I feel like it address draw distance more than anything now from the example, but I really don't know. Also, it's like a far clip setting attached to the camera created by the world creator. I'm a little confused, to be honest. That's okay. I might be able to understand it a little better once it's implemented. I'm a little confused on it for now. Next, we have camera changes. We've got a lot of camera changes in our queue. These aren't all of them, but here's the ones we're working on and how they progress today. So the portrait mode and increased screenshot resolution, they didn't really change much, but they added a new one called Save Directly to Gallery Desktop Camera. We're looking at some additional camera improvements. We want users to be able to save photos directly to their gallery, and we also want to allow desktop users to use a photo camera. Both of these features shouldn't be too difficult to add in. These tasks are both in development. I think it's good that they're adding a desktop camera. They have a part on this developer update about the hide avatar distance, limit number of avatars shown. Nothing really changed between the days since yesterday, so we're going to go ahead and skip over that. Again, I'll link the whole page in the description if you're interested in looking at it. Conversation dome and local player voice falloff slider. After some internal discussion, we're going to stop working on a local player voice falloff slider, and instead funnel our time and effort into the conversation dome. To recap, the conversation dome is a sphere/dome around you with customizable size. Anyone outside the dome will have their voice turned down almost completely, allowing you to focus in on the conversation around you. We've been designing UI elements for this feature, and we'll be figuring out the details of how exactly it'll work. This task is currently in the design stage. It's interesting that they're just getting rid of the voice falloff slider altogether, but I feel like this basically has the same functionality but more, so I guess it's fine. Then we have a segment on speech bubbles, which is basically the same. They're saying basically the same thing as yesterday's update, but that there's some other important social and safety considerations to be made. So some more design things were scheduled to discuss them. They didn't say what those safety and social considerations are. I was thinking about like word filters and stuff like that, but I don't really think they'd add that to the game. But to be fair, we didn't really think they'd add any of this or EAC to the game, so we don't really know. I kind of hope there's no language filter because I feel like that really like blocks out a lot of like freedom. CPU core affinity, CCX, and process priority. So this is a little bit different. This is similar to what we already went over, but they talked a little bit more about it. This is 2 tasks. They're both waiting for work to be done. No UI required. It's all technical. Some modern AMD CPUs perform better if you restrict VRChat to only using one single CCX. This isn't possible to do with external tools anymore. So we're looking into being able to do it manually, or perhaps detect these CPUs and do the optimization automatically. Additionally, users can't set the process priority on VRChat anymore due to EAC. This usually doesn't have much effect on performance, but users have asked for it quite a bit, so we're looking into it anyways. I feel like people wouldn't be asking for it if it didn't affect anything. Like, that's a very specific kind of thing to ask for it if it didn't affect anything. Bug fixes, the last thing on this list other than the conclusion. A lot of the effort today was on fixing a bunch of bugs with the new features. There was work on these bugs. Okay? Conclusion. That's it for today. We're hoping to get a live release out this week, as well as another live beta for the next patch, 2022.2.2p3. We'll see how that goes. See you tomorrow. Okay, so I feel like we covered a lot of weird things, and I feel like VRChat kind of acted kind of weird towards some of these things. I don't know how I feel. I feel conflicted because they're adding all these really great things, trying their best to implement them as fast as possible, but I feel like a few things were like pretty off to me. Like when they were talking about the EAC performance drop, it seemed like they didn't really want to talk about it. They said, "Oh, our data doesn't show it. I don't know what you're talking about." That's kind of what it felt like to me. Kind of same with like the CPU core affinity CCX. They were just like, "Well, we don't see it, but you know." But why would they be adding all these performance focused features and additions suddenly, like only recently, if the EAC thing didn't affect any performance at all? I don't know. What do you think? I know I keep saying that, but I am actually interested in what everyone thinks about all these features, especially the features that'll affect them the most. I think a lot of these features are really good, and there was a lot of exciting things in here about improvements to stuff that they're adding, but also just some disappointing stuff. Like the fact that speech to text might not be in the game for a while, or it kind of made me feel like it might not be for like a very long time, just text to text, which is an improvement, but I feel like it's not what they tried to promise us. I don't know. I'm like excited and like confused at the same time. I'm sure I'm not the only one. Anyways, I guess this is the end of that video. I hope that this update helps you understand what VRChat is currently working on and how they're improving. And I hope that you have a good rest of your day. If you're interested in seeing the very first developer update that I did, it'll be right there. And if you're interested in seeing the video I made about when they first added EAC to the game, it'll be right there. Or if you want to, you can subscribe. I'll put it right there. Just for you. Just for you. Anyways, have a good day. Goodbye.